Sean Connery, who, even though he's got the strongest Scottish accent in the world, can show up in a movie like Hunt for Red October and play a Russian commander, or show up in Highlander and be a Spaniard sword fighter and still use his accent and get away with it.
Some things do not react well to bullets.
I'm Cinesolom Aaron here on the All Over the Place podcast, where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I am your host, Eric Porvoznik, bringing in Jim Culver, bringing in Marty Zamora. How you doing, my friends?
Hello.
Excellent.
Marty wearing the coolest shirt, black and gold from the 70s. Loving that one there, Marty. Good times. Still need to watch the latest Pittsburgh Dad after that little win yesterday.
Yes. I enjoy those. Those are rough after a loss, but they're after a win.
Pittsburgh Dad makes we Western Pennsylvanians feel a whole lot better. And before we get going, I once again need to thank everyone out there in All Over the Place land. We picked up more subscribers this week on both YouTube and on Facebook. We continue to grow. Thank you, everybody out there, and just liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting. More comments are coming. Love that. Also need to send some love out to Danny Zalesko Presents at dzp.com/events. One of these days I'm going to say that quickly, but I always blow it there. And also Vinyl Record Dude, Nick and the gang over there. Make sure you're checking them out when you're in Scottsdale, or just order online from them, and that's going to be at vinylrecorddude.com. And lastly, I want to send some love out to Harkins Theaters here in Arizona and a little bit beyond. Make sure when you're going out to see your new movies, go to Harkins Theaters, check out the times, and get on over there. And speaking of movies, we are bringing onto the show, picking my proper preposition there, and a guy that I got to know over at LinkedIn via our good friend Christian Toto. And this guy's been a movie critic and a entertainment journalist for 19 plus years now. And it's our first guest from Australia. And please welcome to the show, Matthew Pejkovic. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so very much, guys, for having me on. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Provoznik, make sure he gets that last name right. So thank you, Matt, for being here. And I bring up Christian Toto. And so you guys are coming out at the film scene and the entertainment scene from, forget the politics part of it, but with entertainment from a right point of view, a conservative point of view. So tell us first how you got into being a film critic and an entertainment journalist, and also what it's like going from that perspective of things.
So as you said, been doing this it'll be 19 years this year. Actually, next month will mark 19 years since Matt's movie reviews has first come up. Essentially, it was something where I found myself in a really place health-wise. I wasn't well. I had a really bad back and hip injury. I couldn't walk for a month or so. I had to quit my job, and I had to pretty much revitalize my life in some sort of way, financially, spiritually, health-wise, especially. I was a smoker, I was a drinker. I left all that stuff behind. I kind of got my stuff back together, and around that time, I was just watching a lot of movies, as I usually do. And back in 2006, I think this was pre-social media and such, but the big thing was kind of blogs and websites and such. And I always wanted to start my own blog and just talk about movies, and I had the time and I had the passion to do so, and I just kind of started. And after a year or so, that's when I started the different publicists and distributors, studios started getting in touch with me, and I could interview some cool people and I can watch some cool movies, and it just started to flourish from there. And interestingly as well, so if I started the website in 2006, Passion of Christ came out 2004, and that was a very kind of landmark movie for me because it was a movie that kind of revitalized my Catholic faith as well. Like, I was raised Catholic. My parents are Croatian, so the church is very big in Croatia, and we were raised in it, but I kind of went away from it when I was a teenager and a young adult. But that movie kind of put me on a path back into talking about church and going back to church. And then I was like, with movies, why can't I start talking about movies that have that kind of aspect as well? And now I don't dedicate all of my content to that, but a big portion of it I dedicate to faith-based movies, and with that comes different aspects as well. And I might talk about documentaries that people don't want to talk about because it might be on a conservative side of things or a Christian side of things. I might look at films that do that as well. And a lot of it just comes down to just what my belief system. I'm a big C Catholic, small C conservative, and my film output, not all of it. So I do a lot of horror movies and action and stuff as well, mainstream stuff. But a lot of my stuff I dedicate to that stuff. So that's where I kind of ended up more on the right side of the entertainment sphere. So yeah, that's pretty much where I am right now.
Much like a favorite of mine, Prince. We and as a fellow Catholic, knowing how to walk slightly in the profane, maybe not varying degrees of profane, but also walk in the secular. Absolutely,
yeah.
And the holy. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's important to still be able to. My thing these days, especially over the last few months, is that I'm more focused on classic movies and cult and genre films. Not so much the new release stuff anymore, because I just got sick of watching some of these movies, and I really can't stand some of the things that I see anymore. And I'm more dedicated to like the movies, so you can see the posters behind me, that kind of stuff. But I find it important to also just to talk to filmmakers and talk to actors and creators who do stuff that is in my lane of the things that interest me, and a lot of that does come down to my my religious beliefs. And I think it's really cool to be able to do that from an entertainment side. And another person who was a big influence of that was Bishop Barron. He always does he talks about evangelizing through talking about things like pop culture. He does. I don't know if he does so much anymore, but he used to. Back in the days of Word on Fire, early like mid 2000s, he did a lot of movie reviews and he talked about TV shows and pop culture things, and I was very influenced by that as well. And I think it's very important that if you do have a certain religious belief, to maybe just use the tools that you have. I believe that God gives us all kind of tools and gifts and skills, and if you know what that is, and if you're fine-tuned it, and you have the opportunity, the means, and the platform to be able to talk about some of this stuff, doing what you do, then I'm all for that, and that's what I try to do with my work.
Bishop Barron is my man. He's a person who got me much more into my Catholicism, and frankly, I don't think anyone in the Catholic faith is able to quote Bob Dylan the way that Bishop Barron does, and his take on Cliff from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Unparalleled, phenomenal take from Bishop Barron on that one.
One of my favorites is when he talked about The Sopranos, Edie Falco's character in that movie, and talks about the banality of evil in regards to her, because even though she's not so much the mobster, she's very much kind of like takes the fruits of that kind of mob life in the killings and everything else. She's surrounded by it, and she might present herself as holier than whole, but she's just part of as much as the problem as anyone else. And I thought that was a really great take he had as well.
Oh, Sopranos. Do we have anyone on this show who likes Sopranos? You want to ricochet off of that one, Marty?
Well, that was a theme in the show that she struggled with that quite a bit.
Yeah,
Tony called her out on it. Even what do you think? Where do you think all the money comes from? Don't act like I think his line was, "Now you act like butter wouldn't melt in your mouth."
Yeah, that's right. That's when they were middle of the divorce proceedings or something, right?
Yeah,
they had a big argument. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
on the rocks, and she was trying to act like she was all in the right, and he called her out on it.
Yeah, that's right.
And Riley, she knew.
Yeah, for sure.
And Matt, you brought up the just transitioning out of the new movies. And what was, I guess, the final tipping point on that, where you're just movies that are coming out that Hollywood's releasing right now? What was the straw that broke you into just going into more of a red phase?
Well, number one is just it's been bubbling for a little while, but just kind of like the whole glut of remakes, reboots, superhero movies. I think it was when there's two films. One I did see, one I haven't seen yet. When Superman was coming out, the new one that just came out, the James Gunn one. I was just thinking to myself, man, why do I need to go to a screening and talk about this when I talked about 3 or 4 Superman movies before this? And I still love the Christopher Reeve one. To me, that's still the pinnacle of like the Superman movie stuff. And I'm just like, it's this is just ridiculous now. Just really how the reboot, remake kind of franchise, especially in the superhero movies, is just overtaken the cinemas. And that was because kind of like it got to a point of just like, I just can't be bothered doing any of these films anymore because that's a big portion of kind of like the blockbuster releases that come out now. And then there was another film that came out that everyone loves. I think I'm the only one who didn't. It was a film called Sinners, that was directed by Ryan Coogler, and it had Michael B. Jordan. And I found the movie to be just, I had a lot of problems with it. I didn't like what it was saying about faith. I didn't what it was saying about race. I didn't like that people were going just crazy over this film, over certain parts of the movie that I thought were just ridiculous. And I think at that point, I thought to myself, I'm just not in the same wavelength as kind of like today's filmmakers, today's films anymore. And I was just like, I like watching. I just more gravitating to watching the older stuff more. I want to delve more into the older stuff. I want to talk to people about older films and cult films, and I want to do like maybe some long form content on that stuff on my YouTube, and I find that to be much more enjoyable because after you're doing it for 19 years and you've seen pretty much every movie under the sun, and it started to be like a mishmash. Everything kind of it's like a big kind of like mishmash of every film seems to be the same. And it's just I get really boring. And I didn't want to be in this position. I didn't want to be up, till midnight writing if I'm bored with what I'm covering. And so I was like, I want to cover the stuff that invigorates me. I want to watch something that moves me. I want to do something, and I want to share with everyone out there these really cool films that people might not have seen. There's so many movies out there, so many great films that maybe people haven't seen that I want to dive into and talk about and share. And I think it's really important that we do that. And yeah, so I just thought to myself, I had enough of watching this new stuff. The new stuff is, number one, not that good in its presentation. Number two, can be really troubling in the ideas that it presents, and also just at the end of the day, just incredibly frustratingly boring as well. And yeah, I can't think of many films that have come out recently that I can look back at in 20 years the same way that I look at the films that I used to watch when I was a kid and still think of with fondness. So that was the decision to move to the more kind of to a new creative direction.
I think one of the reasons people like Sinners is because it was an original story. It wasn't part of a franchise or anything. It was just its own thing, and it was pretty successful on that front. So, do you think that that's a good sign that original movies are going to make a comeback here at some point, or do you think we're going to have to keep looking back at older movies to be able to have that experience?
Yeah, I mean, the original movie front, I don't know how much you can. I mean, as soon as I watched the trailer, the first movie, I thought it was From Dusk Till Dawn, where they kind of do the switch in the middle, becomes like a vampire film. So that's a movie that kind of came with me. I hope so. I hope that more filmmakers do kind of original content, but even films that do kind of like original stuff, they still borrow heavily from previous, generations of filmmakers, which is natural. I mean, it's like that. Or entertainment, even music is cyclical. I mean, it's just the same kind of ideas are redone, but presented maybe in a different way for a new generation. I do think it's cool that a movie like that can make the movie that I make. I mean, it's a horror movie. I love horror movies. A lot of the cast in there I like as well. I just didn't like what the movie had to say. But yeah, I think it is great that people went out to watch a film like that, and in that it made the kind of money it did. I might not like the film, as you can tell, but it's pretty awesome that at least the one of the biggest blockbusters of the year isn't Fantastic Four number 20 or whatever it is.
One more origin story. One more. Thanks.
Yeah, I wonder. I've always wondered this for the past, I don't know, decade or more, why they keep redoing Superman. Like, why not have? I mean, we had Bond, Indiana Jones. Like, just continue the story. Sure, you may have to change the actor or whatever, but why do we have to continually go back to the beginning, reboot the whole thing, start it all over fresh again? Why? Just continue the character and continue making stories about it. And there's no originality in it. They're just afraid to go. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why they're afraid to fail, really.
I think it comes down a lot of the times, and it's something that's really frustrating to me. It's not just about making a movie anymore. It's about creating the universe, the world building kind of concept. And so it's not enough to just continue the same Superman movie that Zack Snyder did or Bryan Singer did before that. They need to do a new one to as the centerpiece of their new universe, so they can redo everything in their vision. I think that's the reason why they've done so. I mean, for me, I really liked like Henry Cavill as a character. If they kept making Superman movies and he was like still in there, I'll be more interested in watching that film. But watching like a whole new kind of like universe expanding whatever, it's not something that doesn't really interest me. I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe did a really good job at that for like maybe 10 years or so, but now that's gotten boring as well. And I think it won't be long till they reboot that whole thing again as well. I give it maybe like 5-10 years or so, and they'll do it all over again, which maybe they should have done. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's all universe building these days. It's not enough just to have one movie. You need to have the one film that spins off to different characters in the same universe with the potential joining together, and then you spin them off into the TV shows, and then maybe you do a tie in this, tie in that. It's pretty much the reason why. And plus, it's licensing as well. They want to hold on to the rights and make sure that they refresh. The rights belong to them. There's a lot of it's just business. The reason they do it. Yeah.
And you've got quite the array of movies there behind you. Look, you're going from back to 1975 with Jaws, 84. I'm going to slip here. Help me out. Jim, I may need help. Heat was 95, right?
95, yeah.
Okay. Pulp Fiction, 94. Apocalypse, 79. Exorcist was 72 or 73?
73.
73. Okay. See, I'm getting close. So, and I had this conversation yesterday with one of the kids I was umping with, and teenager, so naturally he scoffs off. I said, "Hey, no, number 84, good number." A kid asked me, "Was that your number?" I said, "No, it's just my favorite year for movies and music combined." And the kid kind of scoffed it off. I'm like, "Okay, teenagers." But to me, again, with anybody, we look to the movies of our past, the nostalgic feel of it, and I got to thinking some more about it. I'm like, I kind of need to update my top 5, my top 10, because they're all basically from 1980 to 1990. And so what are some movies from the 21st century that have grabbed you that maybe could deserve a spot up on that wall for you?
I mean, there's a bunch of different films that have come out over the last, if we're just going to talk about the last 10 years or so. I mean, just talking last year, there was a movie that I encourage everyone to watch. It's an independent film called, the title's going to put you off. It's called Hundreds of Beavers, is what the movie's called. So it's essentially a live action cartoon, black and white. I forgot the Mike Chesnick, I think, is the name of the director. And essentially it's a story of an Applejack salesman. He gets his whole kind of life upended by these pesky beavers. And the beavers in the movie are just guys dressed in beaver costume.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay,
So
I've never seen the trailer on this. Yes, okay.
Yeah. And essentially it's just one big kind of Looney Tunes cartoon of this Applejack salesman trying to kill as many beavers as he can throughout the whole movie. And I thought it was just fantastic. The humor, right up my alley. I love slapstick comedy. I love silliness. I love the way that they went about making this kind of world, but they did it in a really kind of ingenious kind of way, kind of mix of, I wouldn't say animation itself, but like it's like a live action animation. That's what I felt like. And it's really funny as well. And the cool thing about the movie is that they did this roadshow tour all across America. And so they went around, they presented the film at theaters, they made a big spectacle of it. They ended up actually making some good money doing that, because they made it a cinema experience. They made it an event every town that they hit, and everyone loved the movie. And I'm pretty sure it might be streaming now. I'm not 100% on that, but if anyone can sit down, if they got 2 hours to spare, and watch this movie, I can guarantee it'll be an entertaining, fun film, especially if you love kind of like Looney Tunes style cartoon stuff, that type of humor. But however, there's no dialogue in the film. That's the other thing about it. So it's just really cool. Don't I don't mean to make it out to sound like something pretentious or arty-farty, because that's not really my style. It's actually a really, really well done film. So that's like one of the films that I absolutely love that came out just last year. And there was and if I'm just thinking of last year as well, there's another movie. I'm just thinking of what it's called. It's directed by Jack Houston. Let me just look it up here. Jack Houston he's an actor. He was in Boardwalk Empire and a bunch of other stuff as well. He directed a film. Just looking it up here. It's kind of like a boxing movie. It kind of reminded me of like some of the films from like the 1950s Brando style movies. It's called Day of the Fight. It's essentially, again, it's a black and white film, not meant to be a narrative. It's not a narrative here. It's not like I'm choosing every black and white movie, but it's a black and white film. It's essentially this character played by Michael Pitt. He's a boxer. He's got one big match. He just got out of jail, and he spends the day pretty much going around to different people and just asking forgiveness and making repentance with all the different people that he hurt in his life. And the cool thing about the movie is it's actually produced by Joe Pesci, and Joe Pesci has a role in the movie. But again, he doesn't talk in the film. He plays a man with dementia. He plays the father of the main character. And the cool thing about the movie, which I did not know, is that Joe Pesci, before he became an actor, was actually a singer. He was a crooner.
Yes.
He sang a lot of songs. So there's this beautiful touching scene where the father and the son, they were on the outs for a long time, and the son's trying to make peace with the dad. The dad can't talk to the father. So the son puts on one of his dad's records, which happens to be a Joe Pesci song, a real love Joe Pesci song. And the song's about love and forgiveness. It's absolutely touching, just remarkable. So that's another movie I really like people to check out, Day of the Fight. If they can check out those two movies, then you could kind of see in the wavelength of what kind of stuff I like that came out in the last year or so.
And did you happen to see the Godzilla movie when they put that out in black and white? I thought that worked beautifully.
I haven't. I loved -1, absolutely. My son, he's 12 turning 13, and he has gotten into Godzilla big time. He watches all the old ones, the Toho stuff, everything. And I allowed him to watch -1. I said, look, I've watched it. I think it could be all right for you to watch it. And he watched the black and white one. He watched the color one, and he absolutely loves the black and white version as well. So yeah, that's a good. Sometimes black and white can work really well with films.
And I was looking at to see when I was still at Warner Brothers, the layest Mad Max movie, Fury Road. Saw that in regular the color. Then the chrome, and that I thought was phenomenal. Black and white does something different. Or chrome does something different to a movie. Did you see that one with the altered color as well?
I haven't. No, I went to the premiere when I had it here in Australia. It was like one of the biggest premieres I've been to as well, because of course it was shot here in New South Wales, and it was like of course we're in Mad Max country here. So no, I only just watched the color version. I haven't watched the chrome. I do have though the big Mad Max box set, and it does have a chrome version in there. I might put it on one day, but I got to say, like, I like Fury Road, but to me, the second movie, Road Warrior, is the best one out of all of them. I mean, to me, when I think of Mad Max, it always comes back to Mel Gibson. And so if you can have if Mel could come back to do a old man Mad Max, that'd be awesome. Probably won't happen. But that's my cup of tea right there. That's a Mad Max I grew up with.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are both in my top 10.
Absolutely, great films both. Yeah.
Where's the love for Thunderdome? Come on, Tina Turner, great films.
For the first half of Thunderdome.
I'm being very facetious. I just like the song, and it was.
It is a good song. It's in the first half of that movie is terrific. Absolutely, yeah.
Kind of like two movies fit together that don't fit very well together.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. So, from what I remember, George Miller's, I think, producing partner passed away, and so he kind of had to step away from it, and someone else kind of came in and did the film. And while I'm sure the story would have been the same, it does seem to be a bit of a tonal shift to it, and I think as well that it seemed to me they were trying to get away from more of the gritty kind of exploitation kind of nature of the original Mad Max films to open it up for more of a mainstream audience, considering how big Mel Gibson had become by that time. Even though it was before Lethal Weapon, he still had he was still known in Hollywood as because of the Mad Max films and a couple other movies as well. But they were definitely looking for a more accessible kind of mainstream movie crowd for that one.
Yeah.
And
speaking of Mel Gibson, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of Mel Gibson, so you mentioned Passion of the Christ earlier. It looks like he's finally going to complete his sequel to that, which he's been working on for like 15 years, 20 years now. Obviously, it's going to be very different in tone, but it it sounds like a really fascinating project. Do you have any thoughts on that, or have you seen read anything about it?
Yeah, it's 2 films. So one's gonna. So the first, the stuff he's always talking about, which I think is going to be fascinating, is that the first film's going to, from what I understand, is going to be set on what happened in those 3 days. And essentially, we're going to see him kind of like Jesus kind of conquer hell, all that kind of stuff. And he said it's going to be like kind of like an acid trip kind of movie. So it's going to be really interesting to see how audiences will react to that kind of presentation of a biblical film, because I haven't seen it myself. Maybe someone out there has, but I don't think it's ever happened where someone's actually tried to depict what Christ went through through those 3 days before he was resurrected. And so I think the first film is going to focus on that, and then the second film will be I think it's going to be post that, what happens when he does come back, the reaction from like everyone, from the apostles and everyone else. So the second film could almost kind of be almost chosen territory, or maybe we're going to look at the apostles more. But that first half of the film, that's the one I'm really looking forward to, because I think there's so much potential to create something really cool, like especially visually. What will Mel Gibson's depiction of hell be? What will be the depiction of kind of like Christ kind of like in that stage of what's going on? I mean, it would be fascinating to see for sure. And I imagine as well that one of the reasons why it's taken so long is maybe visual effects wise, maybe practical effects wise, maybe all of that stuff is going to be hopefully, fingers crossed, is going to be outstanding, because whatever people could say about that first Passion of the Christ movie, visually it's one of the most arresting movies you could. And I remember seeing that, maybe I think I saw it remember seeing it at the cinema, and that's what stuff that really struck. Caleb Deschanel's filmography in that was just fantastic, and so that second movie will have to live up to that, plus bring all these other aspects to it as well, which could be, maybe kind of go into more Terrence Malick kind of style stuff. Who knows? I mean, it will be fantastic to watch, and definitely something I'll watch at I don't go to the cinemas that much anymore, but that's I got that marked in my calendar right now as whatever release date is. I think it's 2027 might be the first one, or maybe 2026 to go and watch that for sure.
No, definitely. I've always wanted to see an Acts of the Apostles movie. Other than TV movies, they've never made one. So this might be the closest we ever get, but I'm definitely interested to see it too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And endless source material there, endless.
Yes.
And I once again want to remind everyone, you are watching and or listening to All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends. We've got with us Matt Pejkovic, and I just very quickly want to throw out our shout outs, our love to Dane Zalesko Presents, DZP.com, DCP. I'm going to get this right. So dzpresents.com/events. Make sure you check them out for all your concert needs in the Southwest and beyond. Also over at Vinyl Record Dude, you can order your music from them or stop into their new retail store in Scottsdale, over on Scottsdale and Shea. Harkins Theaters as well. Want to give them some love. And whenever you're in Arizona or a little bit beyond, check your theater listings for a Harkins. And I forgot to say at the beginning of the show, our co-host Kathy, she couldn't be with us tonight. She is traveling out and about. She's a busy, busy lady. I love seeing all the projects she's got going on. But be sure you check out Kathy over at Instagram.com/RushFanatic. That's how we got introduced to her, with her little Rush tribute song. Neil Peart and her nephew tribute to them. Make sure you check Kathy over at Instagram.com/RushFanatic. And Matt, you've been doing this, this is your 19th year. And when you started out, I guess, let me back up. Now streaming has made movies, whether they're American or for us, international foreign films, at the touch of a finger, our fingertips. It's there for us. But when you started out, what was the filter like for you? How did you concentrate things? Like, how soon were American releases released down in Australia? And what's that like? It's evolved over the years.
So some movies we might get like one day before. Others we might have to wait 3 or 4 months. Like some of the Oscar films, like Oscar contention movies, they don't come out to Australia until like a month after you guys get them, because the States will get that stuff earlier because it's award season and award bodies and everything. Where here in Australia, our big kind of cinematic seasons outside of like summer, the whole your summer blockbuster to our winter is like January, February. So we get a lot of kind of like the Oscar stuff there. So that could be a little tricky. But when I first started, it was mostly I was just reviewing stuff that I had access to, which was by DVD collections. I was working in retail, and so I always usually spend half my pay packet on just whatever the latest stuff was that came out on DVD. And yeah, I wish I can take some of that back, because I bought some really bad movies during that time. But yeah, that's the stuff I was reviewing, or I'll just buy a ticket myself and go to the cinema and watch it myself and write it up. But maybe like a half a year to a year after I started getting invites to watch movies or media screenings, and so that was the way for a long time. And then over the last, say, 5 years or so, 5 or 6 years, I get a lot of stuff sent to me via Screener Link. So I actually, my reach, like for my website and my YouTube, I actually have a bigger reach with American US audiences than I do Australian audiences, because I actually review a lot of US content, so indie films, genre films, and a lot of that comes down to because our film industry, while it is big, doesn't put out nearly as much stuff as the US does, and also because of the introduction of streaming, there's so many films out there now that's got being shown on Prime or Netflix or what have you. So there's so many opportunity to watch stuff, and so I was never without watching 2 or 3 movies a week or 4 movies a week and writing them up. Something I can't do these days because now I've got kids, so I don't have the time to put up that be as prolific as I used to be. But yeah, so media screenings and screeners were the kind of the big chunk of my movie watching. But when I started, whatever I had in my collection, so I used to start off reviewing kind of like Tarantino films, Scorsese films, all that kind of stuff, and then later on, it will be kind of like whatever invites I get sent to. And as my audience got bigger and started getting made more connections, I just got the opportunity to watch even more stuff and interview more people. And yeah, so these days it's more I'm watching what I want to watch. So like I'll just go onto a streaming site or go get my DVD collection and say, okay, this week Dog Day Afternoon has its 50th anniversary. I'm going to talk about that. Or King of New York, I'm going to talk about that. That's pretty much how I try to do stuff these days. But yeah, screeners and media screenings, that was the big part of my movie-going experience for the last 19 or so years. Yeah.
Nice. And over at your site right now, you've got you did a Peter Weir, great Australian director. You've got your top 10 from Peter Weir, and you hinted in the pre-show you're telling us about things that are coming up. So what's that feature going to be like on your website, going from like Peter Weir and what's coming next, and how do you determine what guys you want to feature, or gals, directors that you want to feature?
So I do some theme stuff with the website. So I have one thing called Director Spotlight. So like for a month, I'll just focus on one director's work. I'll do like one movie of theirs a week, and at the end of that month, I'll do a top 10 of them. So this month, I'm looking at Michael Mann. I actually got my Michael Mann t-shirt
nice.
that I created. Yeah. So that's on sale at my TeePublic merch place. So I got so I'm focused on that right now. And I also do this thing called Decade in Review. So I'm just going through the 80s right now. So this month I'm looking at the year 1982. So I'm just going through those films right now. And then on top of that, I kind of look at what movies were released 10, 20, 30 years ago during this week and kind of look back on them. Might do a review. I might do a couple of long length kind of podcast episodes, have a guest on, maybe another film critic, might be an actor, might be a director, and we talk about these films. So my last few of those in a show I have called The Rewind on my YouTube. I talked about Dog Day Afternoon, talked about Hardware, which was a sci-fi film that came out in 1990. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. Crimson Tide came out in 95, talked about that. Next month coming up, I'm going to be doing a bunch of horror stuff because October. So I'm going to be looking into that as well. So just various different movies that come out in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whether it be director spotlight or whether it be kind of like a movie that is celebrating its 20th anniversary. That's what I'm kind of focused on right now. And I also try to do some little bit of a short, like 20-minute documentary stuff behind the making of stuff. I'm working on a something on Hunt for Red October right now, which is part of a series I have called Cinephiles, which is on my YouTube as well. So that should be out hopefully end of the week. So yeah, just constantly just writing and editing and filming and talking to people like you guys about all these great films and putting it out there for people to watch and read.
Well, I'll have to make sure that my dad actually remembers how to work YouTube when that comes up. He's a big Clancy fan, and to this day, as much as he liked Harrison Ford, he still thinks that Alec Baldwin was the perfect rendition of Jack Ryan. Yeah,
I really enjoy that film, and I enjoy some movie actors, and I don't know who can do it these days, like a Sean Connery, who, even though he's got the strongest Scottish accent in the world, can show up in a movie like Hunt for Red October and play a Russian commander, or show up in Highlander and be a Spaniard sword fighter and still use his accent and get away with it. I absolutely love like watching his movies and just watching, because once you watch him, he's so magnetic and so charismatic, and he's such a great actor. You just that stuff just kind of slips away, So who can do that these days? I have no idea. I don't think anyone can really.
Yeah, that's true. And I got to send this out to my friend Ryan, who Russian Magna. He was magna cum laude at Ohio State for his Russian, and some things do not react well to Bullish.
Yes.
my best and worst Sean Connery there. That's for Ryan Crockett in Chicago, Illinois.
I love, of course, Robert Redford passed away. What was it, last week? Mm-hmm. And I was watching some clips from The Natural, and I totally forgot that he was playing the character when he was 17 years old and playing the character when he was 44. Like he did both. So, and again, he gets away with it because Robert Redford's so charismatic and charming and stuff. It's like, yeah, he can do that. Like, again, I don't know. I think only maybe Tom Cruise would be the only one with the gumption who can try to get away with something like that. But yeah, that's why I like some of these classic films. You've got some of these actors and personalities who I don't think, I truly believe the age of the movie star in a traditional sense is gone now. And so I love watching these kind of older performances and remembering what a movie star looks and sounds like and acts on screen.
Yeah, I think if someone's popular enough, they can play characters they don't really fit into, but people enjoy it anyway because they're so charismatic. I think on a good day, Kevin Costner can get away with that. He's obviously played some characters he didn't quite fit with, but he brings a certain likability and a certain charisma to them. Doesn't always work, but I think it does pretty more often than not, I think, for him. But yeah, there aren't a whole lot of actors that do that now. Most of them follow the Marlon Brando route, where they kind of try to be chameleons and kind of fit into the role better. I think there can be a nice mix of that, but at some point, people have to show up to want to see the actor, regardless of what character he's playing, or it doesn't really work. So,
yeah. Well, Kevin Costner is interesting because he did that Robin Hood movie back in '91. Was it Prince of Thieves? And I still think it's one of the better Robin Hood films. And it's interesting watching it. If you watch it again, he kind of starts off trying to do an English accent. In some way through the production, he just went, I can't be bothered. He just continues on with his American accent, and I love that. And he's great in the film. I thought he was fantastic.
Well, you're also dealing with the guy who plays the best villains ever in Alan Rickman.
Absolutely, yeah. Alan Rickman, and who else was in that as well? Christian Slater was in that. I totally forgot he was in that film. He played Will Scarlet was the name of the.
I think so, yeah.
Guy.
Scarlet,
yeah.
Morgan Freeman was in it.
Morgan Freeman, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Yeah, great cast.
And one of my favorite villain actors of all time, Michael Wincott, playing the
Yes.
guy Gisborne. He's so good in that.
So good. And he's
Best
in The
villain
Club as
voice
well, which is one
ever,
of my
Michael
favorite films.
Wincott.
Yes, yes, and he has that gravelly kind of that thing to it, right? It's fantastic. Yeah.
Folks, I did not envision us talking about Michael Wincott and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio within 30 seconds of each other. This is why we bring Matt Pejkovic on from Australia. It's how we make this stuff happen.
That's my effect on people. I can't help it.
I love it. No complaints from me. I don't think Jim and Marty are complaining either.
Not a bit.
Nope. Good stuff.
And no, Matt, earlier this year, we had on our top 3 faith-based films. And not to put you on the spot, but just off the top of your head, your 3 favorite. I'm giving you a little mini threefer section here. Your top 3 or 3-ish faith-based films.
I need to have some definition though of faith-based. How broad are we willing to go? Does it have to stay within the faith-based market? Can it be some films that maybe I can kind of describe as having faith-based elements to it? Because I could get controversial with it, you know.
Well, I mean, we the 3 of us who were on, we just said Passion of the Christ that's the end all be all. That's for obvious reasons,
right?
For instance, Jim, what were throw out a couple of yours that maybe that cross some some spectrums.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was basically any movie that has faith as a theme. So one of my picks was Signs, because that actually had it was a sci-fi movie, but it had a very strong faith message, kind of interwoven into the story. So for me, any movie that doesn't have to necessarily be a faith-based film, but it can be any movie that has a faith-based message in it.
And on the flip side of that, I went with Dogma as my top pick.
Dogma, Kevin Smith's Dogma.
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. All right. So if we're going with that on that road, just on the top of my head, like to me, my favorite film of all time, and I think the most, and people might find this funny, most, I think, pro-Catholic movie of all time is actually The Exorcist.
Yeah. William Friedkin's Exorcist, yes.
Yeah, and I think the big part of that is because of William Peter Blatty's writing in the film. I mean, he was a very devout kind of Catholic. In a lot of his writing espouses that kind of stuff. Even like the other movies he did, like The Exorcist 3, which I find incredibly to be one of the most underrated movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, The Exorcist Part 3, I really recommend watching it for Halloween because it's a fantastic movie. He directed it as well. I really recommend it. Another one, if we're going in the same road, The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick. It was an incredibly moving movie for me. I rarely tear up. Like I have my little selection of movies called like the Manly Tears group of movies. So you have your Field of Dreams, you have your Rocky kind of stuff. Tree of Life for me, it's one of those movies that kind of did that for me. That was incredibly influential movie for me, and just the way that Terrence Malick kind of explores the nature of faith in that movie. I just thought was fantastic. If we're going to go another movie as well, that's kind of like a more of a dark comedy film. There's a movie that's called Calvary that came out in 2015, starring Brendan Gleeson. It's an Irish movie. It's written and directed by John Michael McDonough. So he's the brother of Martin McDonough. Martin McDonough did films like the Three Billboards out of Missouri and In Bruges and stuff. Right. So he has a brother named John Michael McDonough, who, in my opinion, is the better of the two brothers. And so he made this film called Calvary that came out 2015. And Brendan Gleeson plays a priest in a village in Ireland. And the film starts with him in the confession booth taking confessions from his parishioners. And a parishioner comes in who we can't see who the face is, but the parishioner says, "I'm going to kill you in 1 week because of all the things that the church did, like with the sexual abuse scandal." And so during this week, this priest, who had nothing to do with any of the stuff, he's a good priest, he's a good man, but he's trying to figure out who in the town could be the one who threatened him and could end up killing him at the end of the movie. And so it's a kind of like a mystery, kind of like a thriller, but it's incredibly dark in its comedy as well. So you got to have a little bit of you're going to go in there. It's a movie that kind of can ruffle some feathers, but I thought it was a fantastic movie, especially at the time when it came out. I think the abuse scandal was like really like reaching this kind of like its pinnacle in a lot of ways in the mainstream and such. But yeah, so those are three just off the top of my head that I can think of. If you're looking at like more of the pure kind of faith-based movies, I really liked there's a movie that I had my children watch with me recently called The Case for Christ, which is based on the books by, I'm just trying to see if I can find Lee Strobel. Yeah, Lee Strobel wrote a bunch of books, The Case of Faith, and one of them was The Case for Christ. And so he did a movie version of that, which is fantastic. And essentially, it's about how Lee Strobel himself was an atheist, but he was a journalist. So he wrote a piece about whether Christ's crucifixion was real. And so as a journalist, he talks to all types of different people and tries to find the evidence. And by the end of the film, he's converted and he becomes a Christian. And that's pretty much the movie itself. It is just that. So it's kind of like an investigative journalism movie, but the story is, Christ himself, whether Christ, actually existed, whether he was actually crucified and such. And it goes through all the different ways and how, yes, the story is true. He was a historical person. This actually happened. So that's a really fantastic movie for people to seek as well. And I also liked, what was a movie that came out a year or so ago, Ordinary Angels. I thought that was fantastic with, who was the bloke that plays Jack Reacher? What's his name again?
Alan Richson.
Alan Richson. He stars in this movie. It's a true story about, I think it was back in Kentucky. Was it Kentucky, I think it was, where it was like a huge snowstorm in his small town. And his daughter has a bad heart, and there was they have a transplant waiting for her, but he couldn't get out. And so the whole community kind of came together and created a landing strip so a helicopter can come and grab it. It's a fantastic movie. It came out last year through, I don't think it was Angel Studios. I think it was the Kingdom Story Company released it last year. So if anyone wants to see something like more recent, Ordinary Angels is actually quite good.
I'm writing all these down. What was the one you mentioned before that I like what you're in your description? It reminded me of Risen, where Joseph character, it's an investigative journalism kind of, where it's a police procedural, and he gets converted. And what was the name of that one?
That's right.
Case for Christ. Case for Christ. Thank you.
Yeah,
that was one of my picks actually, I really like that one. I feel like that could have been. I feel like they could have done that story and made it so preachy and just pounded you with the message, but it really didn't. It felt like a real story and like a real mainstream movie. A non-believer could watch this and still appreciate what the story is, the storytelling behind it, and the character's journey in it.
So there's another like Cabrini came out last year. Absolutely love that film as well.
I'm kicking myself. I missed that. That lasted a week in theaters here, and
that's a excellent movie. Nefarious, if you're looking for like a more like a horror kind of aspect to it.
Christian had a lot of good things to say about that one, as I recall.
I think it's a fantastic movie. And there's a movie as well. I got to shout out to a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker. It's a film called Exemplum, which is actually free to watch on YouTube. It's written and directed by Paul Rowland, who's he stars in the movie. He produced it, he directed it, and he's he actually writes for Breitbart as a journalist, but he actually did this movie on his own. And it's a fantastic movie about pretty much he's playing this priest who becomes kind of like a social media sensation. He has his own kind of like YouTube series called Exemplum, where he talks about different things. But what people don't know is that the source of his stories is that he's recording the confessions of his parishioners while they're confessing to him. And when he gets found out, he has to choose between either being, going the social media route and trying to find fame, or staying as a priest, but staying away from that other stuff, doing your vocation, doing your duty. And the roads he kind of goes down and the kind of things he kind of does is really, really fantastic. Again, independent film, black and white, but I really recommend people check it out, Exemplum. He's actually working on a podcast now There's going to start a podcast series that's going to star Nick Searcy. He's going to star in it for him, which is coming out, I think, next year. I forgot what the podcast is called, but yeah, it's Nick Searcy and some other cool people. But his first film, Exemplum, I really recommend people check that out. It's really cool.
Jim, who's Nick Searcy? Do we know who that guy is?
we might have heard the name once or twice. Yeah.
I'm very facetious on that one. A shout out to our friend Nick Searcy, who was actually who helped us get All Over the Place kick-started after he was a friend on our old Radio Free Fredonia show. Much love
awesome.
to Nick and everything that guy does. Fearless warrior. Andrew would be proud of you, Nick. Proud to call you a friend and a former a veteran here of AOTP. And Matt Pejkovic, I again want to thank you. We could go on for hours. We're all movie geeks here, and Jim and I, of course, with the faith-based films as well. And so for those of you who are listening only, I've been the banners have been going across for those watching on YouTube. But if you're listening, you want to check out mattsmoviereviews.net. So that's just www.mattsmoviereviews.net. Also check him out on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/@mattsmoviereviews. And a lot of great content there. Check out the site. I'm looking forward to, the next round that you're going to go with, the Michael Mann. I'm looking forward to that one big time.
Love Michael Mann. I can't wait to go into. He just said actually they're filming Heat 2 next year, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes about.
But no Val Kilmer, rest in peace, Val. But it's
Rest
Michael
in peace.
Mann. I can't imagine anything going wrong with that one.
Likewise. Hopefully they'll get some good cast members to play the younger versions of these characters who we loved in the first movie.
Yeah, that is one franchise I will definitely stick with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just had a quick question. So, obviously you're the native film industry there in Australia produces a lot of great movies. A lot of them don't really reach our shores or don't get a lot of attention other than horror movies or the latest offering from George Miller. Are there any kind of recent films that have come out of the Australian film industry that you'd recommend that us Yanks check out?
Let me just have a look here in my top 10 from last year. I got a top 10 Australian movies of last year here, so I can
perfect.
have a look-see. So do you want me to stay away from horror stuff and just like talk more?
No, anything you recommend is
anything.
We're all over the place for a reason, Matt. Give us what you got.
Well, I'll give you a couple of different ones of different genres, just for films that came out last year. Number one, it's really interesting. It is an Australian-made film. It was filmed in Australia, has mostly Australian cast, but it's got some American actors too. And it's actually set in 1970s America. It's called Late Night with the Devil. Fantastic movie. It stars this character actor named David Dasmalchian. And once you see him, he's one of those actors. Sometimes you have actors like, oh, that guy. I've seen him in so and so, and he stars in this film. Kind of like plays a version, kind of like a Johnny Carson kind of figure in the 1970s. And he has a show, a Halloween themed show, where one of his guests is supposedly possessed by the devil, and all types of shenanigans goes on. And the cool thing about the movie is that it's presented like a live TV show. So you're kind of like watching like a live 1970s era show. And so Late Night with the Devil is a fantastic horror movie. So again, I'm a big horror guy, so I'm always going to make horror movie recommendations. I mean, look at the posters behind me, so you can see that. So that's a really good one I can really recommend. Another movie, and I want to talk about this great action movie. It's called Life After Fighting. It stars and is directed by an actor called Brent Foster. And so he has been on some US TV. I just forgot the main show that he was on, but he's a fantastic on-screen martial arts, and off-screen he's like all these martial arts titles and everything. He is so fast with his moves. He was actually, I think it was either a Discovery Channel show from like 10 years ago where they were talking about the fastest speeds of punch and stuff. They had this guy do it because he's just so fast with all his moves and such. And if you like old school like movies like No Retreat, No Surrender, your old school Van Damme style stuff, Life After Fighting, Australian-made martial arts action film, really hands down one of the best kind of like Aussie action movies I've seen in the last 10 years or so. Absolutely fantastic. I can recommend that as well. Nice. And if you're going to go for something a little different, well, there's a movie that came out. So us Aussies like to have kind of like a lot of stories about kind of like the pet dog or the pet kangaroo or stuff like that. So if you're looking for more of a family friendly kind of movie, there's a film called Runt, R-U-N-T, and a runt in Australia kind of means like a dog that's like kind of like a mutt in a sort of way, like I think in the American term. So it's about a family who kind of takes in this dog. And it's like the little dog that could. The dog, even though he's young, he's small and scrappy. He takes part of this kind of like, those dog competitions where they make the dogs kind of like run the laps and do all this stuff. This young, scrappy dog takes on like the more wealthier kind of like dogs and wins the competition. Again, fantastic family film. One for the kids. Has Jai Courtney in it, who was in Suicide Squad, and he played Bruce Willis' son in Die Hard 5, the young John McClane's son in that movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
He stars in the movie. So that's one for the family to watch. So those are 3 films that came out last year that I can highly recommend in regards to Aussie films. 3 different genres, but in my opinion, my top 10 from last year of Aussie films.
Awesome. I've seen one of those. I'll check out the other 2 for sure.
Which one did you see?
I saw Late Night with the Devil. I didn't know that was an Australian film. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was filmed in Queensland. The majority of the cast outside of David Dasmalchian, all Aussie actors. In fact, one of them, the guy who plays the medium, who is kind of sketchy at first, is trying to read people's minds and such. I actually went to high school with him. We were in the same year. So whenever he comes up in movies, his name's Faisal Bazzi. So whenever he comes up in movies and TV shows, I always remember back like when we were in school, he was always had aspirations to do this, and he was doing drama stuff, and to see him kind of succeed now, it makes me very kind of like it warms my heart to see someone that I knew kind of like follow their dream and see it through. So, and he's fantastic in the movie, so I can highly recommend people check that out.
Yeah, I was surprised to find out how many of the special effects in that were practical, not CGI. Practical special effects, and they did a great job with those. I thought that was CGI. Some of the I'm not going to get
there was a little bit of controversy because there was some things that was revealed afterwards that had some AI generated stuff in there, and some people were like really kind of upset about that because it was just after the strikes. And where the big thing about the strikes with actors especially is there's no AI kind of a manipulation and such. And the filmmakers were like, look, it was just for certain background things. We have a small budget. We just had to use some things here and there. But yeah, the majority of it is production and practical. The sound effects are great. But in the end, it just comes down to just a really engaging horror story, and one I can really recommend people check out if they like that kind of supernatural horror films.
Fully agreed.
Marty, you've got Life After Fighting, so I think that'll be a good one up your alley on the action.
Oh, mate, you watch Life After Fighting, Marty, and get back to me. Let me know about the action scenes, and I guarantee you, like Brent Foster, hands down. Like I want to see a film with Scott Adkins and Brent Foster. Just like the whole thing about one gorilla versus 100 men. Give me Brent Foster and Scott Adkins versus 100 gorillas, and I will take them 2 guys in the martial arts movie world because Brent Foster is just fantastic. He directed the movie as well. I think he shot it here in not far from here, like an hour from here in Western Sydney. He does a fantastic job with this movie. It's really great, good job. Yeah,
awesome.
Well, Matt Pejkovic, thanks one more time for joining us here on All Over the Place. I'm especially looking forward to your 1982 breakdown. So I know what my number 1 is, and I'm interested to see what your picks are going to be. So,
I'm still kind of toing and throwing with the top 3, top 4. So hopefully I'll have it up soon, maybe next week or so. This week I'm hoping to have the Michael Mann one, next week the 1982, and then it's off to 1983, and I think next month. I'm thinking, I don't know, I might do John Carpenter maybe for a month, or I might do M. Night Shyamalan. I'm not sure. I want to do something horror, kind of horror themed. Let's just stick to some Halloween horror stuff. So that's the plan so far.
Love it. Looking forward to it. And just a quick shout out to our guest. The show that's going to be dropping later today for you, and that's tomorrow. It's going to be our Tuesday drop. We recently had on the host of Sin Asylum series out here in Phoenix, and Aaron Hudson, and I think Jim will attest to it was some good horror geeking out on that show. think
Big
you'll
time.
enjoy it.
Oh, if it named like Sin Asylum, I hope so.
Exactly. Well, folks, make sure you're checking out Matt over on mattsreviews.net. I'm sorry, mattsmoviereviews.net, and also his YouTube channel, Matt's Movie Reviews. Thank you once again, Matt Pejkovic, and on behalf of Marty and Jim, thanks everybody for watching, sharing, subscribing, commenting, and we'll be back real soon here on All Over the Place. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.